All right, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to determine how many people are playing this game. So I'm going to do 4 people, so I'm going to remove these 2 cards. And you're going to give each person a stack of different colored tokens. These tokens are the tokens that come with the company. And you just use these for bidding purposes. Because what you're going to do in the beginning is bid on different private companies, if you want to. So you're going to take these 4 things, and what you're going to do is you're going to take them and you're just going to shuffle them all up. And then once you have them all shuffled up, you're going to, hand them out to each person. And then what you're going to do is you're going to then rearrange your seating order around the table based on how this came out. So this person who's player 1, what they're going to do is they're going to get the priority deal card, or if you want, you can use the crab as the priority deal marker. Then this person was going to be last to act, so that next would be player 2, so they would sit down to on the left hand side of player 1. Then whoever got player 3 would sit to the left hand side of player 2, and then whoever got player 4 would sit to the left hand side of player 3. And then once you do that, you have determined seating order for the game. And from now, it's going to always just go in the circle. It'll go green, then orange, or green, then red, then yellow, then orange. Green, then red, then yellow, then orange. And it's just going to keep going in that circle for the entire game. So then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take these private company cards. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner they have letters P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, and P6. And you're just going to lay them out in that kind of ascending order. So I'm going to put P1 up here, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. And then what's going to happen is you're going to find the Baltimore and Ohio company. All right, so it's talking about the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab your stock certificates, all your different stock certificates, and you're going to find the one that is for the Baltimore and Ohio. And you're going to take one of the shares from this company and you're going to place it with that company there. Then for all eight companies have these 2 different types of certificates. It has ones that say 1 share on them, and there's 9 of those, or 8 of those, sorry. And then there's a different share that says President share, and it has 2 flags and it says it's 2 shares and it's worth 20% of a company. So each company, right, there's 100% value of stock certificates, 20%, 30%, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to take all the president certificates, or the 20% certificates, and you're going to gather them up. And then you're going to shuffle them all up. And then you're going to randomly just pick one. And you're going to put that with this private company. All right. So now you have private company 1 at the top, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And what you're going to do is you're going to bid on these companies. Now let's go over what they actually do. So the private companies have a couple things on here. In the bottom left-hand corner, they all have a dollar value. $20 for this one, 40, 50, 80, 100, $200. That is the minimum price you're going to pay to buy one of these companies. And so you have to decide, well, do I want to buy any of them? And if so, which ones do I want to try to buy? And what do they even do? Well, each company also has in the bottom right-hand corner a place that says revenue. And that means during the game, each operating round, which I'll explain what that is, it's going to provide you or your company, depending on where this is, but let's just say for now, for you, with this much revenue each operating round. So if I buy this for $20, each operating round, I'm going to get $5, right? So if I'm in possession of this for 4 rounds, I will have made my money back. And if I am in possession of it for 5 rounds, then I'll start making more money than I even paid for it. This company is the Delaware and Raritan Canal. Now, I talked earlier about on the board how there are these special spots with these, what I refer to as dumbbells, right? D and R. And you can see this is the D and R, Delaware and Raritan. What that does is, as I mentioned before, this means nobody can build in this spot. The only person who can build in this spot is the company that owns this. Now, initially, these are owned by you, an individual. They're not owned by a company. But you can sell them to your company. And so if I were to buy this private company, nobody would be able to build here except for whoever I sell this to. Now, I could sell it to my own company or I could sell it to somebody else's company, but I control who can build here. Here you have the Columbia-Philadelphia Railroad. So you can see here there is the CP, Columbia-Philadelphia. That means nobody can build here unless that company owns this. If I as an individual own this, then nobody can build here, not even my companies. But if I were to sell this to one of my companies or somebody else's companies, they could start laying track here. In addition to that, it gives you a special ability. Also, you can see you pay $40 for this, and then each round you're going to get $10. So after 4 operating rounds, I'll have made my money back, and a 5th operating round, I'll start making profit. This gives you an extra build, and it allows you to, on your turn, build these 2 hexes in. And I believe this is one of the ones where it doesn't count as your action. It actually says in the rule book what each of these do. So the Columbia and Philadelphia, so as it says, it blocks hexes H2 and I3, right? H2, if we use our coordinates, and 3I is there, right? So it says it blocks hexes H2 and I3 while owned by a player, right? So if I own it, I, the player, own it, nobody can build there. However, the owning company, so if I sold this to one of my companies or somebody else who had a company whose company bought it off of me, whatever company ended up buying it, the owning company may lay 2 connected tiles in hexes H2 and I3. Only tiles 8 and 9, and that's just meaning the tiles have numbers. So tile 8 are these curves, tile 9 are these straight pieces, and it shows you that here on the tile. Okay, so only 8 and 9 may be used. 1 of each or 2 of the same, right? So I could do 2 curves or 2 straights or 1 curve and 1 straight. If any tiles are played in either of these hexes other than by using the special ability, the ability is forfeit. So if I own this private company and I choose to put a tile here, but it's not an 8 or a 9 tile, maybe I put a 7 tile there, then I forfeit that ability to do my special action. So that's what that's saying. If any tiles If any tiles are played in either of these hexes other than by using the special ability, all right, that's what I just read. These tiles may be placed even if the owning company does not have a route to the hexes and are in addition to the company's tile placement. What that means is, when you have a company, you start out of a specific hex, right? So if I own this company, the Strasburg Railroad, which is this one, right? I'm going to have to put down a tile that allows me to put a one of my station tokens onto this spot. So tiles I could put down are the yellow ones with the large city circle. Remember I mentioned these are large cities. So I could put down one of these large city tiles on there. And so let's say I did that. So let's say I put this tile here and I put it like this, all right? So I have this section. Now I can build track in this direction, or I could build track in this direction. What this was saying is that these tiles may be placed, these special tiles, even if the owning company does not have a route to the hexes. Having a route means connected track, right? I could only build track from here to here or from here to here because that's what this black line represents, track. But it's saying I could actually place the hexes here even if it doesn't connect. I can kind of set up how I want this to look. In addition, on your turn, when you do get to the building phase, you're only allowed to play one piece of track. You can do one upgrade, or you could place a track, and I'll explain what that means later. But in this case, with this owning this company and using the special ability, I can place my track that I want. So let's say I place a track here to connect this up into this section. And in addition to that, I can also lay the track tiles there if I wanted to. So that's what that's saying. And the rest of these do the exact same thing. So the next company is the Baltimore and whatever this is, Railroad. So the B and S. So it blocks this section. Only the company that owns this can build there. Again, this costs $50 and gives you $10 of revenue. So look, if you compare the two of these, right? This one costs $40 and gives you 10 revenue. This one costs $50 and gives you 10 revenue. So that means in 4 operating rounds, you'll get your money back on this one, but it's going to take 5 operating rounds to get your money back on that. The extra build feature is the exact same. You can only place those particular types of tiles, and if you place something else there, you forfeit your action. The Chesapeake and Ohio Canal is up here. And again, only the company that owns this private can build there. However, with this one, you do not get the extra build action, I believe. Let's see. After the company lays a tile, it may immediately place a station token. The tile place counts as the company's tile lay action, and the company must pay terrain cost. Right. So whereas before, right, if I was here, I could place a tile here, and then as an additional action, I could place these 2 tiles with the special ability of this company. But if I placed this tile here, I have to pay the $80. I immediately get to place my station marker on there. So if I was, the orange company, I could place that on there. But that's it. That's my tile placement. I don't get an extra action like the other ones provide. So again, that's what this one does. It blocks this. This company, Baltimore and Ohio, it costs $100. It's not going to give me any revenue whatsoever. All it's going to do is provide me with a share of the Baltimore and Ohio. So essentially I'm paying $100 for a share of the Baltimore and Ohio. Now keep in mind, when companies start, they either start at $70, $80, or $95. So if somebody starts the Baltimore and Ohio, and let's say they start it at $70 a share, that means initially each share is going to cost $70 to purchase it. But by buying this, I paid $100. So I potentially am paying more. Well, regardless, I'm going to pay more than whatever the starting price is, but it does guarantee me a share of this company. And lastly, you have the Cornelius Vanderbilt. This one, when you buy it, you immediately get the president's share of whatever company started there. So this is the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, which actually starts off the board. So if you buy this company, you're going to, or this private, you're going to get the president's share of this company, and you will be starting your company in this location here. And then what you'll do is you'll determine, well, how much are people going to pay for these shares, right? So I paid $200 for the president's share, and what would happen is after I purchased it, I would determine, well, what are other people going to pay for the share? Are they going to pay $70 for it, $80 for it, or $95 for it? So let's say I put it at 80, and this would go up at 80, and it would show anyone else who wants to buy shares of this company are going to pay $80 for it. So now that you kind of know what these things do, now you got to ask yourself, well, what am I even trying to accomplish here? What do I want to do? Right? Essentially, you're trying to either invest in companies or build up a company or a little of both by getting track out on the board and investing in companies that are going to make money. Well, the way you make money is by running trains from city to all these different cities that are on the board. So what you kind of have to do is figure out, well, where do I want to build a train? Right? So you can see some of these places, the ones with the double O's, they start off by giving you $30 for making deliveries to these cities. Typically, to go to a city on a yellow tile, it's only $20. So delivering to these spots are more profitable. Later in the game, tiles can be upgraded to green, which will give you $30 for a city delivery. But these two tiles, these double O's, are special tiles and they have their own value. They're actually going to give you $40 for each delivery you go there. And additionally, they could go up to $70. And you can see DC can go up to $100 per delivery. And DC is here. Additionally, delivering to places off the board can either over time net you $100 by the end or $80 by the end, or down here $60 for each delivery down there. So you kind of have to figure out, what do you want to do? Where do you want to build your track? Do you want to go from New York to Philadelphia to Baltimore to Washington, D.C., maybe then eventually over to Ohio? Right? If you want to do that, where do you plan on building your route? And that might determine, well, do I even want this tile? If my route is going to go, my goal is my route to go like this, I don't plan on going up here. If I don't plan on going up there, I don't need to buy this private, unless I just want it for the revenue income, and maybe I'll never use this ability. So you kind of got to figure out what you want to do, right? Are you planning on building here, right? Maybe you don't build there, but somebody else will, so maybe you don't have to worry about that. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't care about the DNR, somebody else will build there. But of course, they have control over how they place the tile, right? So do you plan on having your train run there? Do you plan on having your train run through here? Do you plan on having your train run through here? Do you plan on having your train run through here? If you don't, well, then maybe you don't want to buy those privates. But if you do plan on having your train run across that terrain, then maybe you are interested in some of these companies. Or maybe you don't care about the ability of what it does on the board. Maybe you just want something that provides you revenue. And that's all you care about. And you're like, well, this is going to provide me $15 every round. That's all I care about. So maybe I want that. Are you going to want to have a share of the B&O? Well, where is the B&O on the board? The B&O is right here. It's in a city that's going to pay out $30 and then eventually $40. And then eventually, where's the double O's? Brown double O. Eventually $50. And it could potentially give you $70. Do I want to be invested in the company that's going to have that kind of potential profit? Do I want this company? Where is it located? It's located over here. All the main valuable spots are over here. That's going to take me a while, and I have to go through the mountains to get there. Do I even want this president's share of this company that's way over here? It looks like all the action's over there. But I could build up the network down here, and I could run, from my city into someplace like Ohio that's going to be valuable. Or, I could go through the north. So you kind of got to think about, well, what is it you want to even do? What is your plan? And then that might give you some idea of what you want to invest in. All right, so I rearranged these a little bit just so maybe it would be easier to watch what's happening. So this is private company 1, private company 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I kept the turn order player 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the first thing that's going to happen in the game really is the auctioning off of these privates. So as I mentioned, you're going to have to make your decisions on which ones might you be interested in and what have you. Now, the way this works is you have the choice of buying whatever the cheapest available company is, which right now is this one, the Delaware and Raritan, for $20. And if you wanted to, you'd buy it and you'd pay $20 for that. Or if there's something else that you thought you might want more, you can place a bid on it. Bids are in $5 increments. So if I didn't want the Delaware and Raritan, and maybe I was interested in the Chesapeake and Ohio, right? It goes for $80, but if I want to try and invest in it, what I could do is I would take one of my markers and say, I'm going to bid on that, meaning I'm willing to pay $85 for that because my token is on there. And then it would go to the next person. The next person could say, well, I'll take this for $20. Or they could say, well, I'm interested in this one, the Columbia, Philadelphia. And they might say, I'm willing to bid or pay $45 for that, or at least bid to compete in that. And this would go on, and then the yellow person can decide what they wanted to do. Maybe they say, well, I'm also interested in the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal card, so I'm going to compete for that one. And then the orange player could say, well, I would like a share in the Baltimore and Ohio because, you know, it's in a valuable location. So this is kind of what's going to happen now. Remember, depending on your player count, you're going to have a different amount of starting cash. So if I'm doing a 4-player game, each player is going to have $600. So there's a couple things you got to consider what you're going to do with $600. Number one, do you want to start a public company, right? Are you going to want to start one of these railroad companies? If you do, to get it started, you need to have at least 60% of the shares, those pieces of paper that I was talking about, sold. Whether you owned all 60% or between you and other people it's owned, it doesn't matter, but 60% of that has to be owned. Well, if I wanted to start that company, there are starting prices. Remember, you have these different par values. So if I wanted to start this Camden and Amboy Railroad, if nobody's going to help me start it, and I'm going to have to start it all by myself, I'm going to need to buy 6 shares of this at either $70 a share, $80 a share, or $95 a share. So if I was to do it at $70 a share, and I need 6 of those shares, 6 times 7 is 42, that's $420 I'm going to need to have set aside to start this company. Well, if I need to send $420 to the side, that only gives me $180 that I can use for bidding out here. If I wanted to start it at 95, right, then whatever that is, it's at 545, I think it's like $570 if I did my math right. Well, that would only give me $30 to spend on private companies, or else I'm not going to be able to set the value of my shares very high. Or if I was going to buy 6 shares at $80, whatever that is, what's that, $480, I think? $480 if I'm doing my math correctly. Well, if I'm going to have to spend $480 to start a company at $80 a share, that's only going to leave me $120 to share out here. So that's one thing you want to think about. Do I want to start a company? If I do, am I going to have to rely on myself to start it? That you don't know. You might just assume that you're going to have to. All right. Well, then, what am I going to start the company value at? Right? What is the par price or the initial stock price going to be? What's that going to cost me? What do I have left? What I have left determines what I can spend here in the private auction. So this can go on, right? So now it's back to the green player, and the green player could say, oh, I'm also interested in, or look, he might say, hey, no one's put a bid in on this private. I'm going to bid on that. And then the red person could say, hey, you know what? No one's competing with me for this one. You know what I could do is I could buy this one for $20. And so he would do that, and he would spend, you know, and go, all right, well, here's $20, and he would give this to the bank as $20. And what would happen then is this bidding process would pause. Once the first company is purchased, the auctions pause and we look to see, does the next company have somebody willing to buy that company based on this bidding thing we've done by putting our markers on it? If the answer is yes, you resolve that. So, meaning, yes, this person was willing to pay $45 for that. So then what would happen is he would take, $45, give that to the bank, and he would get this private company. Then it would go to this one, and green is the only person who put their marker on here. So that would go to the green player, and he would pay $55 because he said by putting his marker on here he'd pay $5 more than the asking price for it. So then he'd pay $55 to the bank, and then we get to this one, and there's two people willing to pay for this one. It started at $80, and both green and yellow want it. So $80, $85 is what green was willing to pay. 90 would have been, he was saying he'd be willing to get in on that for 90. So right now this is $90 going to yellow because he came in second, or he went on there second. And typically what you would do is you would put the money that you're bidding over there so that you know who has how much money out there. I could do like that. So 24, 60. I might have done this. $85, and yellow would have come in with 20, 40, 60, 80, $90 and done that. And so we know who's what. So now this is going to be auctioned off, but only between these two players, because only those two players had their markers on the private. So now it's green. Green, are you willing to pay $95? Because you have to increase in $5 increments. And if green said, I'll pay $95 for it, then it's to yellow. Yellow, will you pay $100 for it? If he says, yeah, I'll pay $100 for it, then goes green, will you pay $105 for it? Maybe green says, no, I'm not going to do that much. So it goes, okay, so then green gets his money back. And then you get $80, $100, and $5 from yellow. Yellow would get that private, and this money would go to the bank. Then it goes to orange. Orange wasn't competing with anybody. He pays $105 for this, right? Because he was willing to pay $105 by putting his token on here. Orange would pay $105 to the bank. He would get that share and that private. And now it would be to this company. Now, who started this chain reaction? The red player did. So going in turn order, red player caused that to happen. So now the next person in that circular turn order is yellow. And yellow can now flat out buy this for $200 if he wants to. Yellow might say, you know what? I'm not interested. I pass. So then it goes to orange. Orange, you can buy that for $200. Orange is like, I just spent, $105. I'm not going to do it. Then it goes to green. Green, you can buy that for $200. He can, or he could pass. Then it goes to red. Let's say he passes. Then it goes to red. Red, you can buy that for $200. And he says, no, I don't want it. I pass. If that happens, if everybody passes, then what you're going to do is you're going to have an operating round. And an operating round, when the private auction is still going on, all it is saying it's going to pay out. You're going to just collect your revenue. So then green player would get $10. Orange player would get $15. Yellow player would get $15. Orange player would get no money. All right? And so it went around, back to yellow. Do you want it? If he says, I pass, orange, do you want it? If he passes, if they keep passing, they're just going to keep collecting their money. And that's just going to go on until either somebody gives in and buys it, or the bank, that $8,000 bank, runs out of money. If you allow the bank to run out of money, essentially what's going to happen is you can kind of calculate who's going to win off that. Just because of the amount of money people have left over, plus the revenue, what would that amount to? Eventually what's going to happen is somebody's going to have to give in and buy the company for $200. So Let's just say eventually green, or yeah, let's just say green. Green says, all right, fine. I'll pay $200, and he takes his $200. All right, so then in that last example, it got cut off, but essentially what happened is green gave in. He bought the this company for $200. That would end the private auction. You'd go into the game. Now, something else I wanted to explain is, you know, I played it out where people were bidding on things, but it could happen where, since green's the first player, it could just be that he's going to buy this for $20. And if he buys that for $20, that's fine. He takes it, and then this becomes available to the red player for $40, and red could just pay $40 and buy that outright. And this becomes available for $50, and yellow could either buy that for $50, or he could say, you know what, I'm going to bid on this for, you know, $85, and go, okay. And then it goes to orange, and orange could say, I'll take that for $50, and he takes that for $50. And then that would trigger this, since someone has a token on here, that could go to yellow, and yellow's the only token on here, so yellow would pay $85 for that, 80 plus the bid that he was willing to pay $5 more for it, and he would pay that for $85. So orange triggered that reaction, and then it goes to green. Green can either buy this for $100, or he could place a bid on this company. And green might say, oh, I'll buy that for $100, and he takes that for $100, and then you get to that same situation again, right? This is, do you want this for $200? You know, yes or no, you know, and you kind of just keep going around and around, paying out if you have to, until somebody buys this for $200. And again, remember, this was randomly chosen. So, you know, what companies here might create different value, right? If it was a different company in a better location for the beginning of the game, then maybe people would be jumping on this. Whereas because this company, for this example, is off to the far east side of or west side of the board, it's kind of out by itself, and so maybe it's not viewed as valuable. But that's essentially what happens with the private auction. One other thing I do want to mention about these private companies is, you know, after you buy them, you can sell them to a company for anywhere from half of what you paid for it up to double what you paid for it. So earlier I was saying, you know, hey, maybe I don't even care about the special ability of this company. Maybe I just am happy it collects $10 revenue every turn. So I could buy this, and then each turn that I own it, I collect $10 of revenue. And then at some point I could sell this to another company for up to $80. So if I held on to it for 5 rounds and made $50, and then I sell this to a company, whether I own the company or somebody else owns the company, for $80, right? This $40 investment or whatever I ended up paying for it, you know, can make me $130 in cash. So that's another way to make money off of the privates, not only for the revenue, but when you sell them, you can sell them for up to a company for up to double what you paid for them. So anyway, that private auction goes on. Once that ends, then you move into the stock round, and you kind of get into how the game with the board and how it actually goes on from there.